Severe storm season is here in Colorado. Last night's storm that hit Greeley with hail and flooding rains killed a person and seriously injured another. The city told us that within the last 10 minutes. The city of Greeley is not saying how the people were killed and injured, just that it was related to that big storm. Greeley saw heavy rain and hail for a couple of hours, and it caused serious flooding all over town. The water started to recede this morning, though there are businesses still closed as a result. We visited Greeley and found people working on that cleanup, basement by basement. Reminded us of the storm that hit Yuma last week. The hail there, people said they'd never seen anything like it before. The humans of Yuma are still assessing damage to their homes and businesses. Our Mark Salinger is out there today talking with folks about the cleanup and the extent of the damage. We'll hear from him in a few minutes. First, want to get to Chris Bianchi, looking at another severe weather day out on the Eastern Plains.
And Kyle, fortunately tonight, much calmer than last night, what we dealt with in Greeley. And for a bit of context with that report, the unfortunate report of a fatality there in Greeley, did want to look back here on Greeley and what we saw last night. We picked up in Greeley in about 2 hours more than 1/4 of what you typically see in a full calendar year. And the other issue with what we saw last night in Greeley, picking up 4 inches of rain in about 2 hours, was we had all that hail initially. So you have that hail that blocks all the storm drains, means all this water that fell had nowhere to go. And so the result was, unfortunately, a lot of the flooding that resulted from that as well there in the Greeley area. And certainly thinking about those folks that were hit so hard by that storm last night. Still dealing with storms mainly across the Eastern Plains. Severe thunderstorm watch until 9 p.m. for tonight. Severe thunderstorm warning for the Eastern Plains. Starting to see a bit more of a bow-like look to these storms. That means damaging winds is going to be our main concern. 60 to maybe 70-mile-an-hour winds again. Notice that bowing feature, that kind of archer's bow that tells us that damaging winds, the main concern here. In Denver, we've had a few raindrops, much calmer for us in the metro area, and then some stronger storms also for Lamar. Quarter-sized hail possible for our friends there in Prowers County. All these shower storms push east over the next couple of hours, so some good news in that department in terms of the fact that, again, tonight should not be as active as what we saw last night. I'm going to take a look at the 7-day forecast in more detail, including the potential for our first 90-degree day of the year, likely for this weekend or next week. But certainly, Kyle, all eyes here in terms of what was a very, very busy night last night and also for today as well.
And we want people to take heed of the weather warnings when they're coming in, so that's why we like them to be as tailored as possible. You spent time on TV this afternoon telling people in western Adams County here in the metro area that they were okay because the danger was out in eastern Adams County this afternoon. I want to show this to people. Just more than 400 people in Adams County were under the tornado warning, which expired mid-afternoon. So it's less than 1% of the county's population. It's a big area. Obviously, the population's on the western side of the county. But, of course, we hear from people who got dinged by their phones, got other alerts about tornado warning in Adams County.
Yeah, exactly, Kyle. In fact, it was less than 1/10 of 1% of the county. So 424 people were underneath that tornado warning. More than 550,000 people live in Adams County. So that is a tiny proportion of the county. That said, many third-party sorts of things, so I'm thinking about Alexas or automated alerts, for example, on your computer. They might have said that Adams County was underneath that warning. And we talked about this at length a week ago, Kyle, when we were talking about the differences in Adams and Arapahoe counties. Just that geographical extent of those counties is such an issue this time of year, and it seems like this happens all the time. So on behalf of all Colorado meteorologists, I would love for those two counties to get shrunk down.
I'll put in a word with the governor and see what we can do. By the way, by saying the name of that device, by uttering her name, you just set off 100 of them around
That's
town.
true, yeah.
Chris Bianchi, thank you. Nearly every building and car in the town of Yuma still shows scars from last week's massive hailstorm. Mark Salinger takes us there.
The whole town's, no one's left out of this. Everyone got affected by it.
In a town of 3,500, there are certain days that everyone will remember.
It just plummeted the city of Yuma.
You talk to everybody in town, and a lot of them say they've never seen anything like this.
Every single house has been damaged completely.
The storm rolled through 9 days ago. It left behind a town still working to clean up.
We're going to be cleaning up for a long time.
Luke's phone has been ringing constantly with people filing insurance claims.
Definitely expensive.
Boarded windows, broken glass.
Angela is with the city. They're trying to get help from the state to rebuild.
They're still assessing the damage.
It's been a crazy week.
Adam has patched up hundreds of windows and roofs.
I've been working until I'm have to go to sleep. I've been trying to get at least 1 to 2 hours a night.
The hailstorm lasted for nearly an hour.
Let me find a good one here.
In a part of Colorado used to extreme weather,
You can see all the hail, broken glass.
this storm shredded every car, building, and fence in its path.
That's the inside of my house, yep. You know, at my house, I probably had 2 feet of hail piled up alongside my garage after the hailstorm.
You see that? It's all beat. These are all from hail.
Every house looks like this on nearly every block in town.
Beat up the entire house all the way back down into the bones of the house.
It's a reality that will take time to fix.
All I've been trying to do is give people peace of mind more than anything. Like, we're gonna fix this. No one's hurt. Everything can be fixed, you know? And that's a lot of stress going on in this town about the future.
A future that also includes more storms tonight.
We're hoping and praying that we escape tonight. We don't need another one.
The church here in Yuma was built in 1927. All of the stained glass windows behind me are all blown out. As far as damages and how much this is all costing, we still don't know that yet. They're trying to add it all up to try and figure out how many millions of dollars this hailstorm cost. For Next in Yuma, I'm Mark Salinger.
That storm also damaged a lot of farmland outside Yuma, likely millions of dollars more in lost crops. Hopefully that covered by crop hail insurance. State regulators have reopened the investigation into Xcel's preemptive power shutoffs in April. The investigation that 2 weeks ago was ended with no resolution. Perhaps the PUC had a change of heart. Perhaps they saw Marshall Zellinger's interview with the governor saying that Coloradans should not wait months for answers.
Remember when Xcel turned the lights off for 50,000 people in April to minimize wildfire concerns and high winds? Remember when the PUC closed its investigation into that event 2 weeks ago with no action?
I had a number of questions and concerns such that I've asked to have this item put back on the agenda for further discussion.
Just like the power itself, the investigation is back on. During today's PUC meeting, the commissioners revived the investigation they closed 2 weeks ago, which was to the dismay of Democratic Governor Jared Polis, who had asked the PUC to adopt emergency rules.
Is that what you expected when the PUC said we're going to open an investigation into the power shutoffs for nothing to be concluded?
No, I'd like them to move quickly.
Xcel is close to submitting its new wildfire mitigation plan, which will include what it plans to do to prevent its equipment from starting wildfires. But that is a process that could take up to a year, bringing us back to this investigation to enact emergency rules.
What struck me was, I think, the need for better coordination, especially with municipalities, emergency operations centers, as well as vulnerable and critical customers.
The thing that's, abundantly clear is that there's a real problem with communication, both with customers and with the relevant emergency service agencies.
The 3 PUC commissioners today reiterated their expectation of Xcel providing better communication to customers and county emergency managers ahead of future power shutoffs, the kind that might happen before Xcel's next wildfire mitigation plan gets approved.
Once today's expectations or order is written, Xcel will have 2 to 3 weeks to respond, and then after that, the PUC will have the parameters for what it expects from Xcel, specifically around communication with any power shutoff, for the rest of this year and until the official wildfire mitigation plan gets approved, and that's the 6 to 12-month process that the governor didn't want to wait for, and the PUC decided today they no longer wanted to wait for.
It's interesting, and it just raises, it's like, who do the regulators work for, right? Like, they work for the people of the state. They certainly listen to what the governor has to say. They also listen to what the utilities that they regulate have to say in a lot of cases because they work so closely with them.
But on that list, the governor is probably the most. You have the PUC director, their ultimate boss, directly, but the governor has appointed all 3 of them. So I guess if he says we shouldn't have to wait, you might listen to the boss and say, we could fix that.
Perhaps we shouldn't wait. Yeah, all right. Speaking of not waiting, do you have plans for tomorrow night?
I think I'll be...
Play that debating music. Tomorrow night is debate night on 9 News. Me and Marshall, we're going to have some fun with this. It's going to be an interesting conversation. The 6 GOP candidates in the primary for Colorado's safest Republican seat in Congress. You got Lauren Boebert, Jerry Sonnenberg, Richard Holtorf, Mike Lynch, Deborah Flora, and Peter Yu. They're all running to replace Ken Buck and represent Doug Coe, Loveland, and the Eastern Plains. An hour-long live debate at 6 p.m. in place of Next and streaming on 9 News Plus. Coloradans in every corner of our state deal with hunger. In the far northeast corner in Logan County, 1 in 10 people lives below the poverty line. In collaboration with our 9 Cares Colorado Shares Drive, this week's Word of Thanks microgiving campaign supports Logan County's longtime food pantry as it plans for its future. The motto at the nonprofit cooperating ministry of Logan County is serve those in need and give them a hand up, not a handout. And each weekday, that food bank is open to the public. 4 times a year, families can come in and stock up on food for the entire year, or for the entire month, rather. This is a small community out there in the Sterling area. People know their neighbors, and they know that folks need help after the loss of a job or an illness or another family crisis. So that food bank is there as a partner with Food Bank of the Rockies. Now, here's where we come in. Logan County's food bank can have tens of thousands of dollars worth of food at a time in its refrigerators and freezers, and they're worried about what would happen during a sustained power outage. Organizers told me, we can't have a crisis when others are having a crisis. So let's see if we can buy Logan County's food bank a commercial-sized generator and get that installed for them. Those things are not cheap, but it can keep them running through hard times. And if we happen to raise extra funds, they can certainly use that for the food bank. Scan the QR code on your screen or text the word thanks to 303-871-1491 to get that link to donate. Even $5 helps, so as always, I'll match the first 50 donations of $5 to get us started. More than 2,600 of you have signed up to simplify your giving with a monthly donation to the Word of Thanks Fund. And that's meant that we've been able to start recent micro-giving campaigns with almost $20,000 in donations each week. You can use that same QR code or text to get there. Another pro-Palestinian campus protest comes to an end in Denver after protesters' demands were denied. People living within sniffing distance of the Purina plant are so tired of the stink, they're going to court. And what is now an open field will soon be an accessible playground where kids of all abilities can have fun. It's thanks to the dedication of one family and an assist from Next viewers. Another pro-Palestinian protest has wound down on a college campus in our area. DU leaders say that dozens of protesters there packed up their tents and left peacefully after university administrators refused to meet a single one of their demands. Protesters left this morning after they'd been camping on DU's quad for 3 weeks. DU says the abrupt end of the protest came after a meeting last night where administrators reiterated that the university was not going to meet the protesters' demand to sever all financial ties with Israel. University administrators unsuccessfully told the protesters to clear out last Monday. That protest area is now completely clear of tents and is roped off. DU says the turf there needs to be restored. This is the second campus protest to reach a peaceful resolution in Denver. Protesters at the Auraria campus downtown disbanded their encampment earlier this month, also without having their demands for divestment met. What is the smell of Denver? I would have said weed too. But if you're anywhere near the Purina plant, it's often dog food. Or, as it's being described in a new lawsuit, it's like, quote, someone barfed in your backyard and then it baked in the sun and then you put a fan on the smell to keep it circulating. That's how folks in northwest Denver are describing the scent from the plant in a proposed class action lawsuit filed yesterday in federal court. 2 people who live near the plant claim that the owners have failed to mitigate, quote unquote, noxious odors that make people feel physically sick as far as a mile away. They want a judge to declare the plant a nuisance and give neighbors unspecified damages. Nestle Purina says they can't comment on the pending litigation, but they're committed to being the best neighbor they can be. It's not the first time there have been complaints about the smells at that plant. Neighbors have filed a number of complaints over the years with the state health department, and Denver actually fined the plant $12,000 back in 2021.
And we are looking at a pretty busy scene for us here across eastern Colorado right now. Several storms, including a new tornado warning, has been issued for the northwest side of Prowers County. This would be just the north of Lamar. It does not include the city of Lamar, but northwest Prowers County, you are under a tornado warning until 6:30, till the bottom of the hour. We've had some signals there of radar-indicated tornadoes. If you're joining us from northwest Prowers County, innermost room, away from any windows, ideally a basement. Meantime, further north, still some stronger storms, including this one, southern Washington County, under severe thunderstorm warning until the bottom of the hour. That's for gusty winds. Here in Denver, mostly on the calmer side, starting to see that sun peek on out for us, and we should be dry for the rest of the evening here in the metro area. Still 1 or 2 stronger storms possible for us over the next hour or two out across the eastern plains. These showers and storms will push the way into Nebraska and Kansas as we head over the next couple of hours. Should mean we start things off on a quiet note for for tomorrow. That said, we do get a weak cold front that drops through later on tonight, and that'll mean that it's going to be a bit cooler for tomorrow compared to today. By the way, today was our warmest day so far this year for us here in Denver. We got up to 83 for us officially and at the airport, and we're going to way exceed that next week with temperatures that will spike into the mid to upper 80s and lower 90s after a couple of stormy days on Thursday and Friday.
All I want is for everyone to have fun.
Isn't that it, though? Park Project in Berthoud is going to give every child a place to play, an idea sparked by a family who knew what it felt like to be left out. Berthoud will soon have a new playground, place where every kid can play. And you are help building it. Your Word of Thanks campaign is part of why the Berthoud Adaptive Park was able to break ground today. Our photojournalist Tom Cole takes us to what will become a playground for everyone.
Dad, do you have to turn it on?
When a community listens,
Hello?
really listens,
Hello?
it can change lives.
He can hear me.
Just ask 7-year-old Miles Bowling and his brothers Mac and Braxton, their mom and dad. After 3 years of fundraising and donations, the community is celebrating the groundbreaking for an inclusive play public playground.
I'm just a mom who asked a question.
A simple question of possibility for kids like her son Miles.
I think that inclusiveness is something that needs to be taught to everybody, and introducing that at play age, on a playground, through play equipment is something that should just be inherent and something that is everywhere.
Now in this small corner of Berthoud, there will be a playground for kids like Miles.
Everybody, not just people that are in wheelchairs, can play, because all I want is for everyone to have fun.
The community heard you, Miles.
I would like to say thank you.
For next, I'm Tom Cole.
This was an enormous effort by the community in Berthoud. But I should tell you, because you're watching, there are Coloradans from every corner of the state that chipped in through a Word of Thanks campaign last summer, raised more than $20,000 for that project. We are back with your feedback. Marissa doesn't have a bat tonight, so I feel safer. Thank you. Talked to the folks at the Logan County Food Bank lately, and what they were telling me is that while they're able to help their neighbors on a weekday basis through hard times, that what they're struggling with is that they're concerned about their food spoiling during an extended power outage. So right now they're raising money in that community to buy and install a commercial generator for the food bank. It's an enormous project for a small community, so I told them that I know a few thousand people across Colorado who might be willing to help with that. If you would like to join me and others in supporting Cooperating Ministry of Logan County's food bank and their generator project, scan that QR code on your screen or text the word thanks to 303-871-1491. We'll send you a link that has two options. One is to give just this week to this one project, and another to chip in a little bit for each week's microgiving campaign. Feedback from Mark tonight, who says, I will continue to turn the channel each and every time Kyle Clark comes on. He is bad. Please replace. Thanks. First off, Mark, I appreciate the courtesy, the please and thank you. But bad how, right? Because, like, the 2023 Rockies were bad. Cambodian dictator Pol Pot was bad. I assume that I'm worse than the 2023 Rockies, but not as bad as the murderous dictator. But, like, help me out here.